What is underinsured motorist coverage? That's our topic for today's episode of Main Street Law. I'm Cindy Speaker. My guest is Indiana personal injury attorney Randy Sevenish of Sevenish Law. Randy, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Cindy. How about you?
Doing great. Well, Randy, I want to talk about this topic of underinsured motorist coverage. I certainly know about that coverage, but I'm not real clear on what it entails. Can you explain it to us?
Well, Cindy, I'll tell you, I think in our last show we discussed uninsured motorist coverage. Now, today, along with coverage, underinsured coverage, or UIM for short, is also one of the most overlooked and ignored types of coverage one can have. And aside from liability that protects you when you were at fault, there is just no other more important coverage than UIM coverage. But to answer you, UIM coverage is exactly what the name implies. UIM coverage protects you and those people dear to you if the underinsured wrongdoer is at fault and has insurance, but just not enough to properly compensate you or those dear to you.
Okay, very good. Now, does everyone have underinsured motorist coverage? Is that mandated by the law?
Well, sadly, no. Although the law does require an agent to offer it to people, customers can choose not to have it. And I'll tell you, Cindy, it truly amazes me just how many people choose to waive this very important type of coverage, which can literally be the difference between protecting themselves and those they love and financial ruin. And as with coverage, which is normally sold together with UIM coverage, I continue to notice in the past few years in my practice, people choosing not to have this form of coverage. Then when they're seriously injured by an underinsured driver, they realize the huge mistake they made, and by then it's just, frankly, too little too late. So it's just best to have plenty of UIM coverage to start with, to settle up with the underinsured driver's company first, then second, to end up negotiating with your own insurance company up to the UIM limits, if in fact theirs is the type of claim which their insurance company thinks even warrants limits. And I can assure you that they almost always argue about that.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear that. Randy, how much underinsured motorist coverage do you recommend that people have?
Well, they need to remember that UIM coverage provides compensation to them, to family members, and to their passengers when injured by a person with insurance, but just not adequate insurance. So as with coverage, it just makes sense to purchase at least as much UIM coverage as they have in what's called liability coverage. So they should keep in mind, just as with coverage, should they suffer a significant injury, only this time, at the hands of an underinsured driver instead, their own insurance company will not pay them any more than the actual UIM limits that they have agreed to buy as listed on their policy, regardless of their injury, no matter how bad. Even then, the person's UIM insurer will, more times than not want to pay out the UIM limit. So in the end, the wise consumer will have plenty of UIM coverage before the crash, and then, I'm sorry to say, prepare for your fight with your own insurance company, because they just don't like paying out UIM policy limits, and they rarely do without a big fight. So based upon what their assets are and what their comfort level is, as with coverage is, I would likewise recommend a general rule of thumb to be in the area of $250,000 per person and $500,000 per accident. And if they own a home and have coverage of $250,000, $500,000 or more, then they should also secure what's called an umbrella policy of $1 to $2 million that they can get for just a couple of $100 per year. So many people, they try to handle their own claims, Cindy, and then they have these claims and they have these UIM claims, and they think they're saving money by not getting counsel involved. And I can't tell you the sheer number of people that have unfortunately called my office after they've settled their own case, and they have a UIM claim with their own company, and they're confused as to why their company refuses their claim. It's because they settled with the wrongdoer's company before giving their own company the opportunity to have their say. That's just a tragic error.
Oh, it really is. Well, Randy, if someone has more questions, how can they reach you?
Anytime at 1-800-278-9200 or online at www.sevenishlaw.com.
Very good. Randy, thank you again for being with us.
My pleasure.
This is Cindy Speaker reporting for State Law TV.